Hello, I'm Kevin Jones, Bosch Wheel Service Technical Trainer. Today I would like to introduce you to our WBE 5210 wheel balancer. It's our heavy-duty truck balancer, but it also balances passenger car tires. Now let me go through the standard adapters that we include with this balancer. First are our lug-centric adapters. These adapters are used for any heavy-duty wheels that are a lug-centric centering on the vehicle. Then we have our wagon spoke spacer. This spacer is used with the lug-centric adapters as well as with the hub-centric adapters. Then the next one over is our large cone for heavy-duty wheels. The next two cones are our light truck adapters for the dualies up to 19.5 and then down through 3/4 ton single rear wheel 1 tons. Then we have our 3 passenger cones, our pressure cup, and our manual wing nut. These are the standard adapters that we include with this, so this makes this a complete package where you can balance from the largest heavy-duty wheel down through the smallest passenger car, and our balancer is equally accurate in that full range as well. Now let's set up the balancer for operation. Our balancers are shipped to us reading imbalance in grams instead of ounces, so we need to change that in the menu. The 2 gears are our menu key, so we'll hold that until we see SET. The first one is TOL. We want to come back to that later, so using the menu, go through until you see unbalance, grams. We'll change that with either the plus or the minus. Now we're in unbalanced ounces. We'll exit that menu with the menu key. Our balancer has 2 types of memory. One is a permanent memory and one is a temporary memory. If you make a change and you exit with the stop key or the red button, that will enter that change into a temporary memory and it'll be retained only until the balancer is cycled on and off with the power switch. If you make a change and you exit via the menu key and go all the way to the end of the menu, then that change will be saved in permanent memory and will be retained throughout the use of the balancer. Now we need to change the tolerance, or what it calls 0. We're going to go into car mode. So as you see this button, you have a car and a truck. If you push this once, the light lights up by the car mode. Do all changes in the car mode, and we do all calibration in the car mode. Now we're going to go back into the setup menu. Hold the menu key down until you see TOL. TOL is the point below which the balancer calls 0. We want to change that to 0.25 on this truck machine. We do that with the plus key. So anything below 1/4 of an ounce in passenger mode, it'll call 0. And anything below 2.5 ounces in truck mode, it'll call 0. Now we'll go on through the menu. Resolution, in car it's 1/4, in truck it's 2 ounces. Unbalance in ounces. The sound on car or carter is the hood. So it is set up now where the hood closes, the balancer automatically spins. And then out of setup menu 1. These balancers come with manual data input, so we need to verify in setup 2 that everything is turned off. So we're going to go into setup 2 now and verify that every option is turned off. To get to setup 2, we hold the menu key down, and then within 1.5 seconds you hit the millimeter inch. Now we're in setup menu 2. We have POT. Again, every option that we roll through needs to be off. ALU off, PED off, PLR off, ROT off, R&D off, and done. If any of those options are on when you go through that menu, be sure to turn them off by hitting either the plus or the minus key, and then exit with the menu key. That completes our setup. Now we need to move on to calibration. Now we have the balancer set up. Now let's enter in the calibration mode. The first thing we want to do is change it from truck to car. Remember, we do all calibration in car mode and we do all settings in car mode. So we're in car mode now. To get into the calibration mode, we'll hold the menu key down until we see CAL in the left-hand side. Then within a second and a half, we'll depress the menu millimeter inch button. CAL, millimeter inch, C1, and we're in the car mode. Close the hood and we'll balance the shaft. That completes C1 mode or shaft calibration. Now the balancer's in C2 mode, but also note that we are now out of car mode. At this point you hit the button, put the car light back on, and now we can go move on, mount a wheel, and complete C2. Now with the wheel mounted, we need to enter the dimensions. Our first dimension is distance. We always measure distance from flat of the gauge to flat of the wheel. So we'll pull our gauge out, touch it, flat of the wheel, 178. So using your plus or minus key and your distance button, now we're going to enter in the correct distance. Next is width. We'll use our calipers. Again, we measure flat to flat. This wheel is 7.5 inches wide. So using your width key and your plus or minus, enter in the correct amount. Next is diameter. Diameter you can read on the sidewall of the tire. This wheel is a 17. If you needed to change, plus or minus until you get to the correct diameter. Now we close our hood and spin with no weights on the wheel. It's stopped and it's asking for a 2-ounce calibration weight. The balancer is shipped with a 60-gram calibrated calibration weight, but we tend to, especially on a truck balancer, like to use a heavier weight. This balancer, you can use any size weight that you want. I prefer a 3, 3.5, or 4-ounce weight. When you pick your weight, you can simply tell the balancer what size calibration weight you're going to use. This one is a 3, so I'll use the plus key. Until I get to 3 ounces. Now I'll take this weight, place it anywhere on the inside of the wheel. Close the hood and give it a spin. Now we'll take our calibration weight and move it directly across to the other side. Close the hood, give it a spin. This is the last and the most important step in the calibration procedure. The numbers that are on the right-hand display, ignore those numbers. All they are positions on the encoder. What you do at this step is you roll the wheel until your calibration weight is at 6 o'clock. Line up and verify that the weight's at 6. Then come over to the balancer and press the spoke mode. Now you've calibrated this balancer. The calibration, even though we did it in car mode, it rolls over and it's just as accurate in the truck mode. It's much faster to calibrate with a passenger car, a light truck tire, than it is with a truck tire. If you only have a truck tire, you may do that, but it calls for much more weight and it requires a much longer spin time. That completes the calibration of the 5210 balancer. Hello, I'm Kevin Jones, Bosch Wheel Service Technical Trainer. Now I want to take you through balancing a light truck or passenger tire with our Bosch WBE 5210 wheel balancer. The first thing you need to do is find a cone that fits your wheel. One that's not too big or not too small. On any wheel that we can, we always back cone. So we want to place the cone on the shaft first, then the wheel, then the wing nut. On some light truck wheels, you may not be able to. If you're using the double-sided cone or the small light truck cone, we will be using a spacer and those cones, and you cannot back cone on those. Roll the wheel on the lift. Now with the wheel mounted to the balancer, we're going to enter our dimensions. The first thing we need to do is change it from truck mode to car mode. We've got our car light on. You'll use car mode for any wheels from 19.5 on down. If it's a F450 or 550 and you're using a light truck or a passenger style weight to balance that wheel, use the car mode. If it's a 19.5 that's using the truck weights that you would use on a standard 22.5 wheel, then we would like you to use the truck mode. In car mode, the first thing is distance, and again remember, we always go flat to flat on the wheel. Pull your distance gauge out, touch it to the wheel, read your gauge, 178 going distance, plus until we get to 178. 178. Width, we've already checked this. You use your calipers to measure width. This wheel is 7.5. So hit your width button, plus or minus until you reach 7.5. And now your diameter. Again, diameter can be read on the sidewall of the tire. This wheel is 17 inches. So we have all three of our dimensions inside to balance this tire. Now we'll step back and lower the hood. So we have a half on the inside and 1 ounce on the other side. If you press the stop key or the red button on the keyboard, that'll put you into the fine mode. So we actually have 0.55 ounces and 0.9 ounces. If you want to balance the tire to 0, that's the mode that you would use. So let's find our weights. Here's a 1 ounce weight. I'll roll the wheel until I get the green light. Apply the weight at 12 o'clock. Now find my other weight. Again, the light at green. Put my ½ ounce at 12 o'clock. Close the hood and give it a spin. 0, 0. It's exactly what we would like. That completes balancing in clip mode in the passenger light truck mode. I want to point out that we do have different aluminum weight options in light truck mode or passenger mode. So you can use stick-on weights. Many of the same ones that are offered in our other balancer, and you change those with this key here. When you change it to truck mode, you are limited on your weight selection. You have standard dynamic with clip weight, stick-on for a dynamic with stick-on weights, and then you only have one static mode in truck mode. That completes our balancing of a light truck or passenger tire with the WBE 5210. Hello, I'm Kevin Jones, Bosch Wheel Service Technical Trainer. Now I would like to demonstrate for you mounting and balancing a heavy-duty truck tire on our WBE 5210. The adapters as they're shipped have everything you need to mount and balance a lug-centric and or a hub-centric wheel. As they're shipped, they are set up for lug-centric first. This silver spacer has the notches facing out. Those notches are designed to accept the lug-centric adapter. You have a 5-finger and a 4-finger adapter for 5-hole wheels or 4-hole wheels. There are also 3 different bolt patterns. There's an inscription on one of the points for the different bolt patterns. The normal one that we'll use in the US is the middle one. But these adapters, again, are only for lug-centric wheels. A lug-centric wheel is a wheel that's centered on the vehicle with conical-shaped lug nuts. The hub-centric wheel is actually centered on the vehicle with the ring, and it centers on the hub. The lug nuts there have a washer on the back and square shoulders on the wheel. So again, this adapter is only for lug-centric, but how it would work is put this adapter on, lift the wheel up, put it on, and then this would slide on, go through the lug nuts, and then it would center in the correct notch there. So these pins are centering the wheel on the spacer through the lug nut holes. That's how you would mount up a lug-centric wheel. We have a hub-centric wheel that we're going to use a cone with to demonstrate that. To use the cone, we're going to have to take this spacer off, rotate it 180 degrees and put it back on. That's the position that you'll use this balancer with probably 95% of the time in the field. When you first put this adapter on, it may be a little tight. If so, just work it on. It will go on. Just make sure not to jam it too tight. After it's on and off a couple times, it'll go on smoother. Now this is set up to accept our truck cone and mount a hub-centric wheel. This is the cone that we'll use for truck wheels. This will work on either an 8-lug or 10-lug heavy-duty truck wheel, 22.5 or 24.5, and or the 19.5s as well. Now before you get this completely snug, leave it loose, drop your lift down. Now as I turn this, I want to bang on the tire and turn it a couple rounds. Then as it's turning, snug up my wing nut. Then once it's tight, step back and look at the gap between the edge of the cone and the front face of the wheel. This gap, you want to slowly turn the wheel and observe that the gap stays the same through a complete rotation. This helps you indicate whether you have the wheel mounted up true to the balancer or not. If the gap is the same, then walk around, finish your balance. If the gap is wrong, lift up, take weight off, and then reposition the wheel on the cone. Now I'll move around and we'll enter the dimensions of the wheel. That way we can finish our balance. The first measurement is distance, so I'll use my gauge. Remember, we measure flat to flat. Pull the gauge out, touch it to the flat of the wheel, read my number, 142. And now I will input that, my distance button, plus until I reach 142. Width, 9 inches. We measure that with our calipers. So we have 9. And then our diameter. Again, we get that off from the sidewall of the tire. This one is a 22.5. After we've completed those dimensions in the balancer, now we'll lower the hood and spin. Make sure when you're balancing a truck tire that the car light is not on. After the wheel spins, you get your weight amounts on the screen. Roll the wheel until you get your green light in the middle. This does not have a positioning pedal, but we may use the lift for that. So once your light is green, your weight will go at 12 o'clock. I can lift my lift up to now hold my tire in place to apply the weight. This is an old retread. We're not going to actually balance it, but we're going through the steps for you. This side is asking for 12 ounces. Again, get your light green, raise your lift, and that will hold the wheel in place to apply your weight at 12 o'clock. Since this is a manual data entry machine, all of our weights go on at 12 o'clock, whether we're doing clip-on weights or stick-on weights. This balancer has the capability of doing a dynamic balance with stick-on weights, but most people use static only on the steer tires. If you're doing a static only, just apply a stick-on weight in the center of the wheel. That completes our operation of the WBE 5210. Again, notice that the lift is very handy. This is a standard feature of this machine. It's not an additional add-on or option. Thank you for your time.